Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Thank you for tuning into the show today. I have a special guest with us today, my friend Donnie Lygonis. Donnie is a resident of Sweden and works at the largest university in Stockholm, KTH Innovation. He is a serial entrepreneur, 6-time TEDx speaker. Wow. An innovation strategist, but he's also a super connector and is able to network with anyone confidently. Donnie, hello, hello. Welcome to the show today.
Tara, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that incredible intro that gave me so much more credit than I deserve. But thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. Thank
The
you.
thing of it is, none of it's made up, right? It's all real. So,
I
Donnie,
know, I know. That's kind of. I usually joke about things like, that people say, well, how have you managed to do 6 TEDx talks? And I said, well, if you've been around as long as I have, they'll happen to you anyway. Because I've been in TEDx since 2009. We started TEDx. We were the first TEDx outside of US in 2009. So I started TEDx in Europe and in Stockholm, TEDx Stockholm. And in the beginning, then it was a different kind of thing than it is today. It was much more just friends coming together, and then we did talks, and so I did like the first 2, 3, 4 talks there, and then I've done like the bigger ones the latest years. The last one that was this year in January when I did the big one down in Rome, Europe, the biggest TEDx in Europe actually, which was super cool, and I was so happy that they had me. So, and then the same thing goes with everything else I've done. It's just that I tend to do a lot of things, and also, I love trying new stuff, and I guess that's why I'm working at KTH which is the university, and then at the department KTH Innovation, which is the innovation support unit here, where I get to meet people, students and researchers that come to me with ideas and say, hey, let me challenge your perception of reality. And then, so it's always this open mind for new stuff and new people, and that sort of keeps you on your toes, and coming back to what you're talking about today in connecting is, I think and I'm sorry for jumping straight into the subject here.
no, I love it. Go
Just
for it.
gliding into something. I'm so happy to see friends online as well. Avanti from Stockholm, and also Nadia as well. Really nice to see people online here. No, I think that one of the basic things for when we're talking about this connecting with confidence thing is that if you are honestly curious and interested in the person you are meeting, then it's cool. Then you're okay.
Yeah.
That's the baseline. It starts there. It's like when you meet somebody who is more interested in telling you about themselves than listening to what you are. Then you go and say, yeah, well, why? Oh, everybody's not sort of been in that dating situation where somebody spends like the whole date talking about themselves and not ever asking one single question about you. It's like sort of, yeah, but why am I even here then? If you're only, you could do a monologue at home with yourself. You don't even need me in this relationship. So yeah. Anyway, sorry for sort of jump starting the whole discussion, but yeah.
I love that. No, it's so true. It's just, natural human connection and reaching out in curiosity. I think that is so important, because there's plenty of people on LinkedIn, but honestly, the amount of outreach that we get is really not is disingenuous most of the time, where it's self-interested or it's not curious. And the thing about connecting with other people is, here's the thing: human beings, we like to talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
So asking that person out of genuine curiosity, and just doing a little bit of research really goes a long way, doesn't it?
It's crazy how little.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should do your research, but I'm saying that for whatever deity's sake you want to use in that expression, if you're going to reach out to anybody on, say, LinkedIn, it doesn't take a long time for you to look at their profile, who they are, what they've done, what they're working with. And I can bet you there's something to latch onto there. Because if you start speaking to somebody at a networking event, there's always something where your sort of circles intersect or overlap. And there's always something you can talk about. And then you can start building a report on that there's a common interest or a common ground, or even there's always something, right? And I just get frustrated, and actually not annoyed and angry, but I get frustrated and disappointed when people reach out to me on LinkedIn with I mean, it's bad enough when they haven't, that when I just get a connection request without any content at all, but it's even worse when I get it's an obvious generic request, often generated by some kind of a automation tool, where they've just sort of target everybody with this in their title, and I get like 10, 20 connection requests a week from people saying, I see you're a business. I see you're a coach. I can help you get 10 times more clients. Da, 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 da. And I have like a standard paste in answer, which is, well, if you'd done your homework, you'd see that I work as a business coach at a university. So I don't do clients per se, unless you're a student at KTH. Please do your homework. Goodbye. Boom. So it just takes so little. It takes so little to open up a door of getting the first getting the report started with somebody. I mean, my best tip when I work with researchers, like networking 101, people who like hate speaking to, they go, I can never go to social events because it's horrible, and this whole sort of thing of speaking to other people. And I'm yeah, well, tell you what, go to the event, and if you go to an event and you see other people that kind of are acting like you are, like standing by themselves with a glass looking really awkward, why don't you open by saying, God, I hate these events. I always feel so awkward. And the other person will say, I feel exactly the same way. And that's it. And then you're actually talking to each other. And if somebody says, well, I don't know, I don't. And then maybe that's a wall. I mean, and that's another thing, is that we tend to create this sort of gargantuan negative thing that will happen if we get a no. So if we say, hi, can you help me with this? And say, sorry, I can't help you. Okay, fine. I mean, that's not the final rejection in your life. It's just that it's like anybody who's been trying to raise money. Like my sister Superstar, I'd take her as an example, that had 150 meetings with investors before she got the money in. That's that's actually 150 meetings of people saying no. But it wasn't, I mean, if she'd stopped at the first no, she wouldn't ever have gotten anywhere. So I just because again, don't overthink the possibility of people saying no or not, answering up to your whatever you're trying to reach out with. That's another thing. It might not even be personal. I mean, maybe they don't have time. Maybe it's whatever it is. It's not, it's not your fault, and it's not the end of the world. It's just okay, that didn't work. We'll try something else. It's an iterative approach as well. So that's another thing which kind of goes into this. But I think that there's so many tricks and small things you can do when it comes to, if you are awkward or you feel awkward in reaching out to people, then you can lead with that. That's a really good way of getting people, if nothing else, sympathy, and getting people to start talking to you. One of my favorite tricks, and here's another, one of my favorite, easiest tricks today in a physical networking event. If you come in and you go there, I have no idea what to talk about to anybody here, but at least I need to speak to somebody, because I'm going to stand here by myself for all evening. Then do the LinkedIn connection trick, because you can always say, but this playing the LinkedIn game, because when you meet somebody, you say, okay, let's do a thing here. Let's guess how many common contacts we have on LinkedIn, and the one that comes closest buys the other one a cup of coffee.
There you go.
It's a super fun LinkedIn game that you can play in physical things. And you can say, okay, cool. And then you say, what do you work with? I work with this. I work with this. Okay, well, I'll guess that we have 27 common connections. And then we'll go, I think we have more. We might have 100. And then you check, and then it's like 97. Okay, done. You owe me a cup of coffee, or I owe a cup of coffee. And then you're talking. It's just a way to break the ice kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
And now I'm completely sorry. You've started the tape recorder thing going, so I'm completely going off on a tangent here. But another thing when it comes to networking 101 is that I also say to people, I ask them, okay, one, you know what your name is, right? And they go, yeah, of course I know. Yeah, cool. Then you don't need to think about what you are going to say to people when they ask you what your name is, because you kind of know that. But people spend so much, because when they go to an event, everything in front of them is like just a gray haze, and they're so focused on themselves and their impression they're going to give. And I'm going to say this. Oh, my name is Donnie. I work with da, 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 da. I know my name is Donnie. I know where I work. I don't need to actually repeat that. And try and shift the focus to who you're actually meeting, right? I mean, that's the whole point. Don't think more about yourself and the person that you're meeting, but try to shift the focus. So you're actually looking at the person. If you feel uncomfortable with looking them in the eye, then aim for the bridge of their nose or their forehead, or but don't look at anything below chin. That's usually a bad way to start a conversation. But there's tricks for that as well if you feel uncomfortable. But don't sort of look away, but let's look at their face, right? That's one thing. Eye contact it can be perceived as a proof of confidence and relationship, but it can also be an intimate thing. So people are sometimes a bit awkward with that. But so then don't stare in the eyes, but then look at somewhere around in the face, so it feels like at least you're looking at them. And then ask questions. The best thing I know is meeting somebody with the name that's hard to pronounce, because then I can always ask them, wow, that's a really interesting name. I have no idea how to pronounce that. How does that, how do you say your name? Where does that come from originally? Oh, wow. How do you say it in that language? And, and then we're talking. I mean, and then it sort of opens up from there.
I love that. And, it's not just about connecting with confidence online, although absolutely that's a huge part of it at networking events, right? But since you're a speaker, I have to ask you, connecting with confidence toward an audience.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about that and hit on that.
How long did we doing this today?
We can go on for as long as you want.
We can go on forever. No, I will say there's some really, really interesting things there to be, especially if, and again, I do work as a speaker coach and also a pitch coach, and yeah, thank you, Avanti. Always fun to see people listening in as well. And one of my there's a bunch of tips, right, when you're speaking. I won't go into the actual sort of speaking part. When it comes to the connection part, tip number one: whatever event you're at, don't, if possible. I mean, when I did the TEDx Roma thing, I mean, I was the opening act. It was like 1,100 people in the audience. It was live broadcast. And I came straight in from green room out on the stage, and it was like this huge amount of people and spotlights, and it was like, good morning, Rome, like that sort of. But my best tip of all is, before you get up on stage, make sure to work the crowd, mingle around, have a cup of coffee, speak to people in the audience. Just get your voice started is one, because it gets your talking started. You don't want to be, completely silent and then go up on stage and try and deliver, because then you'll have to do the whole kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But most importantly, you get to actually understand that these are real people, and you get to speak to somebody, and you might even get some kind of positive response. I usually go out and ask people, so what are you expecting from this talk that this person is going to give here? And it might be me talking, but or what do you? I'm going to talk here in like 15 minutes. What do you hope to hear, or what would you like to? What do you want me to emphasize? Even though I have a talk rehearsed, I just want to hear their thinking of why they are there and what they're expecting. That's what the important thing is, that I'm speaking to them, and when I get up on stage, I can find them in the audience, and they'll be the faces that I work. So, and that's a second tip, is that whatever you do, and this is the mistake we do as especially inexperienced speakers, is that we try and win over the audience, and especially the ones that look grumpy with their arms crossed, always a male engineer somewhere sitting with their arms crossed. But the thing is, here's the deal. They have decided that they are not going to give you the satisfaction of acknowledging you in a positive way. They might have decided even before they came into the room that, what's his name? Oh, that guy, he must be from there. I know what they're like. I don't like them. or I don't like this person, or I don't like his accent, or his dialect. There are 1,000 reasons for why people decide on a spur of a moment or previously why they will not acknowledge you in a positive way. And that's just the way it is. That's the way, So, and the last thing you want to do is try and spend your whole talk in winning them over, because one, it won't happen in that 15 or 30 minutes. It's not going to happen. Two, you're ruining the experience for everybody else, because you've got lots of other people that are probably going, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are the ones you work. So you find the friendly faces, maybe the ones you've spoken to before, but as soon as you open a talk, you can start feeling some energy coming back, because energy out and energy in, and then you get people in the audience that are nodding ahead, and they give you the small signs of that they're actually listening to you. Those are the ones you work as you work the room, and you find some friendly faces. And if you're super, super awkward and you are so very, very nervous, then you ask a couple of friends to go sit in the audience in a couple of places so you can work them, and then get there, and then you can forget about everybody else, and you're speaking to your 3 or 4 friends, or the 3 or 4 faces that are showing you some kind of positive affirmation. And that's how you work the audience. And then that will also create a positive flow of energy from and back. And people always ask me sort of, oh, wow, Donnie, you get up on stage and all of this energy, and how do you? Well, the thing is, I feed off the energy I get back from people, because I open up, and then I always have, 3 or 4 or 5 people immediately answering back to that. And those are the ones I start working with. And then as everything gets going, the energy sort of spreads and the room gets going. And then still a grumpy engineer with his arms crossed on the back going, I'm never going to trust this guy. Well, fine. Don't care. You're the farthest away from me winning you over anyway. So I'm not going to spend any time doing that. It's like when you're selling things to customers, you don't start by selling to the customers who don't want your product. You start selling to customers who want your product. And the ones who don't want, well, they can come when they feel like it. It's like if you're going to feed a kid or a dog, you put the food there and you leave the room, and then when they're hungry, they'll eat. But forcing them to eat will never make it work. So, it's the same thing here. It's don't try and force it on them. Just find the people who's answering back, work with them, and that's how you build connections with people.
I like that. And in both of the scenario, well, all 3 of the scenarios we talked about social networking, we talked about in-person networking events, but also connecting with an audience in a public forum like speaking, right? But in each one of those, I saw a commonality, and the commonality was reaching out in curiosity with a question, right? Bridging people. So if you're speaking in an audience, you go to the audience, maybe a couple people before the talk. What are you looking to gain from this? What are you looking to learn from this?
Exactly.
Again, reaching out in curiosity, right? And I think a lot of people don't do that enough, but when you reach out with a question, it automatically can start that conversation.
Exactly.
And if conversation happens, guess what? Relationships get built, trust is initiated, right?
Yep. I'll give you one more on that as well, which is I usually get exactly. I usually get very good feedback on adaptation to customer when the speaker agencies sort of get their the reviews back, and I get lots of good reviews. Fine, but one of the things I always get high remarks on is adaptation to the actual current audience. And my perspective is, if the people in the audience go up to the person who has decided to hire me and say, that was a damn good speaker you brought in, then I've succeeded. If I've made them their day, if the people are happy with the actual decision to bring me on, then that's a good thing. And this is the key trick to what we were talking about just now, because if you go out and you actually speak to people in the audience before the talk, I'm not saying change your talk, but if you can add in one single sentence which is based on or answers a question they had, except I say, what would you want? I mean, I'm going to talk about innovation processes here. What would you want me to address in your perspective? And I say, well, we have this and this problem, or we've been thinking about this. Okay, cool. I'll try and pick that up. Maybe I've even prepared that, but if I can pick that up in any way and say, and by the way, if you're doing this and this, don't forget this and this. We talked to somebody before, and I just want to say that this is important. Boom! Automatically, you've addressed the question, and it feels relevant and there and now. And that's the best thing, is if the audience can feel that you are there and now with them, because you're being authentic, but you're also being relevant and in the now with them. You're not doing a rehearsed speech that would have sounded exactly the same no matter who you were talking to, so they might as well just have brought on a video, but you're actually adapting a bit to the environment, to the people, who they are, what they are actually asking for. And you can use 85% of all my talks are like by word exactly the same, and then the 15% are the I adapt to the current situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think that, in my personal opinion, that is like the one of the key winning components to for a good public speaker, is just giving the feeling that you want the audience to feel that, wow, he's done his homework. He really fits in. And I have like a bunch of key questions that I ask the people that I'm going to speak to. Well, I like the people who place the order, the pre-talk meeting, and I have a bunch of questions that I ask them. And because I don't just want to come in and do my thing, as in it starts here, ends there, and it looks and sounds exactly the same every time. But I want them to feel that I fit into a context, because usually it's a context of a day. I might come in as the first speaker or the last speaker or a middle speaker, whatever. And I want to fit into the context. So it's not just somebody who came in and did their, recorded thing and left, but they want somebody who comes in and understands what's going on, get the energy and the feel for the room. And as I said, I've worked in many different situations where we have to speak to people. Like at the university, I speak to a lot of students and researchers in both in talks and seminars and things like that. And I know people who can walk into a room and they can talk and they have no sort of feeling at all for what's going on, and they completely put their foot in their mouth, and they still don't get it. So it's those, if you do the bit of the pre-work, and the same thing goes for reaching out on LinkedIn. You spend a bit more time doing research, just look into who you're going to talk to. It makes it so much easier to talk to them. It's not rocket science, but obviously it's rocket science.
Absolutely. I completely agree. So, what you're talking about is my mantra for selling, which is prescriptive problem solving, right? So again, it's taking that approach, making it a little tailored, making it a little personalized based on that individual, to where they feel like they're having an experience.
Exactly.
That is so key. People want that experience. They want that level of personalization. And when you can add a prescriptive approach and really connect with somebody on that human level to get to know what their problems are, what you need, and how you can help them, that's when you become, go from that speaker to now maybe consultant. Maybe they want to hire you for consultancy, or they hire you again for speaking. Something like that, right? Where you become that go-to person.
Yeah.
And all the while, all you were doing was being prescriptive and solving a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's another sort of lots of other speaker tips that can be sort of added on to do's and don'ts when you're coming into like giving a talk and something like that. That was a really good question there. What's the difference between a keynote and a TEDx? Which we can address as well. But let's start with what's the difference between a keynote and a TEDx? And I'd say that I've curated 15, 16 TEDx's and spoken at 6. And I think that the one thing that sets them aside is that the keynote is usually very, very tailored to the event and context at hand and the people there. And you can be 100% written only for that occasion, right? It can be a keynote at that occasion, or it could be something about, they want you to give a keynote about something inspiring, but it still is there and then. A TEDx it's an interesting balance, because you want it to fit into a contextual theme, because usually TEDx's have some kind of a theme. Yet, on the other hand, it's recorded and has to be able to live its own life as a talk. That's that you can take off like the internet and actually have as a talk that can stand alone. So when I curate TEDx events, I say, connect with the audience, be super relevant and everything. But whatever you do, don't refer to any previous talks in your talk. Because if you're doing 10 talks in one day, you don't say, yeah, and as we heard this morning, blah, 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 blah. Don't do that, because it's an individual talk that has to be able to live its own life as an own talk. So there's a fine balance between, the connection and the relevance. You want to connect with people. You want to be part of a context and deliver that experience. But you have to also respect that the talk has to be able to live its own life afterwards. So you need to cut away some parts of being super referring to other speakers and things like that. But it still comes down to delivering a good message. I mean, both for keynotes and for TEDx's. I mean, and this goes for talks in general. The mistake people often do is that they try to cram too much into the talk. And the bad, not the bad thing, but the downside with the TEDx is that people feel, oh my God, I've got one shot at one talk. This is my 15, well, actually 15 minutes of fame. So it's actually, these are my 15 minutes here. And I have to take this opportunity to tell people everything, right? So they cram everything in, like 4 or 5 big ideas into a 15-minute talk, which means that if you, again, try to sell everything to everyone, you won't sell anything to anyone. And it's like, you have to dare be brave enough, pick one core idea and get that one across.
Ooh, I love that.
And that's scary, because people want to talk. They want to tell everything. There's so much to talk. I've got so much to tell you, and this as well, and wait, and this as well, and I'll cut your grass as well this evening. Everything. But that will just be an information overload. So you have to sort of really boil it down to what's the one core message I want to get across, and then be brave enough to stick to that and try and sort of actually get that across. That's my big thing for a TEDx talk, is to be bold enough to pick one thing. In a keynote, it's like, it can be like, maybe that's an opening a conference, maybe it's a inspirational thing. You have to sort of I always ask myself and the event arrangers is that, okay, but how do I fit into, what's the context? How do I fit into it? And what do you want to see happening, or what do you want people to feel or want to do when I'm finished? I mean, what's the result of my talk? What do you want me to achieve with talking here? That's a key thing. Not what do you want me to do or say, but what do you want me to achieve? What result do you want to see happening based on what I've done? And if they say, well, we want people to do this, or feel like this, or want to do this, or at least a bit more like this, well, fine. Well, then I can sort of tailor the talk so I sort of get them to a point where I can move them in that direction. So
I love that. That is so important, really. So true. And I told you I just got done reformulating my talk, so it's on revision 3, because
cool.
I realized that too, that it's the TEDx, the brand of TEDx, it's about the idea. So you need to make it about the idea, but it's one thing. So you know what my title is? It's Gratitude, the Foundation of Confidence.
Good. But that's good. But that's the thing. I mean, you're doing everything right, because you have a very clear core message, and you are sort of, you're tailoring and retailoring now your talks and this talk to support that. So I mean, you are the role model in this when it comes to one core message and sticking to it. So that's really good. I mean,
I'm excited.
You should be. I mean, it is. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for you. It's like, it's a huge thing. It's great. But you're in I'll say that you're in a much better place than many other people that I either coach or help or whatever. So it's just fantastic. I mean, and it's but coming back to the Nadia's question regarding the difference between the keynote and the TEDx. I mean, a TEDx is actually, and then, as you've been saying yourself as well, but a TEDx is more about you having an idea which is worth spreading to the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of the TED core, is that it's not, and this is me being kind of blunt to the world now, TEDx talks isn't about you ticking off a bucket list that you're going to do a TEDx talk, because just because you want to be on a TEDx talk doesn't mean that you should be on a TEDx talk. It's like the whole thing of, people who actually want to be leaders, they should probably not be leaders, because then they're leaders of the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
kind of thing. And the same thing here. People who only want to give a TEDx talk because they feel that they should give a TEDx talk because they want to have given a TEDx talk. I'm not 10, but a number of requests inbound to me because they know that I arrange TEDx's here. Oh, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to your TEDx. I want to talk to your TEDx. I'm going sort of, but why? About what? And do you even know that we're a university? Or have you just sent a cold email to all of the TEDx's in the world? I mean, just because you want to give one doesn't mean that you should be given one. But if you have so I go looking for people. I've had the best speakers I've had on stage are the people who would never imagine themselves giving him a TEDx talk, but they are people that have incredible ideas or perspectives that have the potential of actually reframing our minds, because TEDx talks are about, the whole TEDx or TED experience is good talks, fantastic coffee breaks, because it's about getting people to reflect, or you need to provoke or have something new to give people so they actually reflect on what you've said. It's not, and going to a TEDx isn't about, again, crossing off a listing. Oh, well, so cool, I went to a TEDx event. Yeah, but how did you co-create that event? How did you actually participate as audience and reflect on what's going on? And that's super, super, super important. So the idea, and you bringing the idea to the world, is more of a TEDx talk. On the keynote, it might be more sort of connected to what they want you to achieve and what they want you to deliver in that thing. Keynotes are usually connected to some kind of conferences or opening something or like that. And I've given both, and they're kind of different beasts. They are. So lots of things coming in here. And how long are we going to go on for? We could probably go on until tomorrow morning.
Hey, I don't stop something that's going and that's doing good, right? Hey, I just keep going. But I love these tips. So many gold nuggets. Honestly, everybody should save this video. This is a really impactful. Save this podcast for sure. But Donnie, pleasure. Thank you so much. So this is now the 4th or 5th time I've interviewed you in some different capacity. You've been in my newsletter. You've been on my LinkedIn live show a bunch of times, now my podcast. So truly amazing and inspiring. Maybe Stockholm's in my future for TEDx Stockholm. Maybe. We'll see. You never know. That would be cool.
Sure. So again, I'm so happy so happy to speak to you again. I look forward to speaking to you again as well in many different ways and capacities. And I just hope that every time that we do speak, that we can actually get to a point where the people listening to us actually get some value as well. Because even though I enjoy speaking to you, and I hope you enjoy speaking to me, we're also doing this because there's a bunch of people out there that also are listening in now and later. So I hope that we've managed to go through some things that could be of use. Let's do another one on speaking tips specifically, because then we can go into the list of how to prepare for a talk to deliver it in the best possible way.
Yes.
We can do that as well. But connecting with confidence is about coming back to the actual subject of the day. Is be authentic, be yourself, and just show interest in who you are meeting. If you do that, anybody, just show interest in who you're meeting. That will enable you to open up, no matter if it's on LinkedIn or if it's in real life. Just do a tiny bit of research. It's like super simple.
Yes, absolutely. And reach out with curiosity. Donnie,
Yes.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's as we can end where we started, because that's how I meet. Because every person I meet that comes into my office or on my Zoom in the university, I can never have any sort of preconception of who they are or what they're going to talk about. I just have to go neutral and say, okay, here's a new person coming into my life. Let's see what they have to bring to me today. And that's where it starts. And then as soon as they start talking about something, I can say, oh, that's really cool. Tell me more about that. And then I can sort of, open up by being curious to actually listening to what they're saying.
I love that. I love that. Perfect. Donnie, thank you so much for being a guest on my show today. And for everyone who tuned in, thank you so much for watching this. Please subscribe and follow, because, without your support, this would not be possible. So thank you so much for everyone, and we will catch you on the next episode.